Okay, guys, Romeo and Juliet, we are back. I'm really close to the end of the semester, by the way. Um, I'm really wrapping this thing up. Again, I think I said this in an earlier video, but I'm going to say it again. We're not going to get to Midsummer Night's Dream. Um, Honestly, we never were, really. What we were going to do, I think, having taught this class in the past, what was going to happen was there was going to be like 2 weeks of school left, and I was going to play the movie for Midsummer Night's Dream, and that was going to take a whole week, and then we were going to have like 2 classes to sort of just chit chat about it, and then that was going to be the end of the semester. It's like a fun, happy, goofy way to end the semester, not with like an intense deep dive into Midsummer Night's Dream, but with just as like a fun, happy way to end the semester. And obviously, it doesn't make any sense to do that now. It's stupid to go tell you to spend $4 to watch a movie, and then come back here and do like one video about it. That's ridiculous. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna finish up Romeo and Juliet soon, maybe today. I don't know. I'm kind of running out of stuff to say on Romeo and Juliet. The other thing too is I've only taught this Romeo and Juliet like twice. This is the second time I've ever taught it, and I really need you guys to like tell me what you want to talk about. It would help a little bit if you had, but without your feedback, it's tricky for me to kind of. I kind of have to pick it on my own. It's harder to know what you're interested in. And obviously you can email me, but we're running low on the semester. It's tricky. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap Romeo and Juliet up a little bit, pretty shortly. And then I'm going to end the semester by looking at one Shakespeare poem. And I'm going to look at a fucking unusual Shakespeare poem that nobody reads and no one's heard of and no one even knows it. When people think about Shakespeare poetry, they tend to know the sonnets, because Shakespeare wrote like 146 of them, and they're great. I find them to be a little bit too brainy, but they're great. They're not an emotional experience. The plays we looked at are emotional experiences. The sonnets are, I don't know, they're very intellectual. I like them, but they're very intellectual. But I'm not going to talk about the sonnets. Shakespeare also has two other famous poems, Venus and Adonai and The Rape of Lucrece. I'm not talking about either one of those. I'm going to talk about a poem no one fucking knows but me. It's called The Phoenix and the Turtle. Turtle there does not mean what you think it means. It means turtle dove, which is a bird. So it's a poem about two birds. So go look it up. It's short. I mean, it is like 60 lines. It is fucking impossible to understand. It is very difficult, which is why nobody reads it. But it's really interesting. And so I'm just gonna do a couple of videos on. But it has a kind of paradoxically happy ending. When you read it, you're gonna think this is really depressing, like everything else we did. But it's actually secretly a very happy poem, one of my favorite things about it. So we're gonna finish Romeo and Juliet, and then we're gonna do The Phoenix and the Turtle, which I think will be a really nice ending to the semester. So that's the plan. Don't worry about Midsummer Night's Dream. We're not getting to it. Although, by the way, if you're interested in Midsummer Night's Dream, there's a movie made for television starring Maxine Peake as Titania. The movie's fucking rad, and I love it. Okay, so let's talk about Romeo and Juliet some more. So Romeo sneaks up into Juliet's bedroom, and they have sex. And we pick up with them, I'm on page 19, after they've had sex. And Shakespeare does the same thing Shakespeare's done a couple of times with them, which is that they essentially awake and start composing poetry again together by the way that they talk. It's honestly, it's one of my favorite romantic things anywhere, is that when Romeo and Juliet talk to each other, they are composing poetry together, meaning they have these interlocking rhyme schemes, and there's a pattern to the rhymes. They're already talking in rhythm, like most Shakespeare characters, or like a lot of Shakespeare characters. They have their 10 syllables per line, and it's the syllables the even numbered syllables are stressed. That's typical. That's in a lot of the plays we've looked at. But this one has a lot of rhymes. Midsummer Night's Dream also has a lot of rhymes. So when they talk, they have a kind of they have a kind of poetry. So what they awaken, they start discussing the birds. This is a famous discussion of the birds, because they've been up all night having sex, and Juliet says, "Wilt thou be gone? It is not yet near day. It was the nightingale, and not the lark, that pierced the fretful hollow of thine ear. Nightly she sings on yon pomegranate tree. Believe me, love, it was the nightingale." So and he responds, "It was the lark, herald of the morn, no nightingale." It's an interesting moment on a couple of levels. Number one, Shakespeare plays were done without sets. It's just a bare, empty stage, and they didn't have, and it's open to the sky. You can get rained on, and because of that, the only way In a movie, you know if it's nighttime or daytime, you can just look. Is the sun out? It's daytime. Are there stars out? It's nighttime. But in a Shakespeare play in the old days, there was no way to know because the play was happening during the day because they couldn't do plays at night because they didn't have lighting. I mean, candles ain't going to do it. So um, you need a lot of candles. So most of the plays were done. I guess they could do it, but it was anyway. The point is, the only way to know if the characters are in daytime or nighttime is they'll say. So you'll have a character walk on stage and say, "Oh, the moon is," and then you go, "Okay." And you're an audience member, and you're like, "Oh, he said the moon. It must be nighttime." Or he'll be like, "Look at the glorious sun," and you're like, "Oh, it's daytime." Um, and that's the only way you know. It's a neat moment in the play when Romeo and Juliet discuss whether it's the lark or the nightingale. They hear a bird, and they're debating, joking. They're joking with each other. They're being kind of playful with language, debating, is it the lark or the nightingale? Why does it matter? It matters because if it's the nightingale, it's still night, and they can be together. But if it's the lark, which is a bird that sings in the morning, it means the sun's coming up, and Romeo has to leave because if he gets caught there, he's going to get killed because he's been banished for killing Tybalt, and if he's caught within the city, he will be killed. And so if it's the nightingale, they still get to be together, and if it's the lark, he's got to fucking go. And he definitely cannot be caught in the Capulet's house, or he'll be murdered. But he really can't be caught anywhere in the city, or he'll be murdered. And so they have this discussion about which kind of bird it is, but really it's a discussion about, is it time for you to go, or can you stay longer in my bed? So she says to him, they have a debate about what kind of bird is it. It was the lark, herald of the morn, no nightingale. Look, love, what envious streaks do lace the severing clouds in yonder east. Night's candles, the stars, are burnt out, and jocund day stands tiptoe on the misty mountain tops. I must be gone and live, or stay and die. And again, I mentioned last time, die. If he stays, he dies because he's not allowed to be in the city. He'll be killed because he killed Tybalt, and if he's banished from the city, and if he's caught in the city, he dies. But also, die is a pun. It means orgasm. And so he can stay with her and have more orgasms. She says, "Yond light is not daylight, I know it I. It is some meteor that the sun exhaled to be to thee this night a torchbearer, and light thee on thy way to Mantua." That's where he's banished to. "Therefore stay yet, thou needst not to be gone. Let me be taken." He's saying, okay, you know what? I agree with you. I am going to stay. Let me be taken. Let me be put to death. I am content, so thou wilt have it so. I'll say yon gray is not the morning's eye, but 'tis the pale reflex of Cynthia's brow. Because they're arguing. She's saying maybe the light is actually like not the sun, which maybe it's just like a meteor. And then down here he says, "I'll say yon gray is not the morning's eye, but is the pale reflect of Cynthia's brow." Meaning I'll say it's not morning, it's just more moonlight. Nor that it is the lark whose notes do beat the vaulty heavens so high above our heads. I have more care to stay than will to go. Come death and welcome, Juliet wills it so. How is it, my soul? Let's talk. It is not day. He calls her my soul because they're soulmates, which theoretically means that they share one soul. So Juliet was trying to convince him to stay, but the sun's coming. And here's the funny thing about it is, for a minute, if you're an audience member, you're going to be a little confused because normally in a Shakespeare play, the characters will say, look at the moon, and then you know it's nighttime. But here, the two characters on stage are like, I think it's daytime, I think it's nighttime. And as an audience member, you're like, wait a minute, what fucking time is it really, though? And it takes a second to realize, it's sunrise. But and at first Romeo says, "Sun's up, I gotta go," and Juliet says, "No, maybe it's not though. Maybe you can stay longer." But it takes them. It's disorienting for the audience. Always think about author and audience in your papers. That it's interesting that, and it captures something about being in love. That time goes very, very quickly and also very, very slowly somehow at the same time. It's a great irony of love. Is that one night together can feel like forever, but also it goes very quickly. And that when you're in love, you're kind of in your own little world and you don't care about the outside world with its whatever. So you don't care about what's going on in the outside world because your little love nest is sort of, what you care about. And so there's something of that. It disorients the audience. It puts them in the same kind of funny, timeless zone that Romeo and Juliet are in, where they're like, it feels like their whole world is that bedroom and the outside world doesn't matter anymore. And for the audience, I can't even tell if it's daytime or nighttime. It takes me a second to figure it out. Okay, pick it up in the next video.